Welcome, everybody. It is Monday, July 18th or Tuesday, July 19th, depending on where you are and on this on the earth. For Jory and I, it's still Monday, and I'm feeling I notice quivering in my chest, which is a combination of excitement and also arrhythmia. Nothing too much to be concerned with, but I do have an irregular heartbeat that flares up occasionally, and today is a day when it's been bumping on and off all day. And so it's kind of exciting. It's just like the feeling you might get of excitement. And it's also annoying and a little distracting sometimes. And so sometimes it saps my energy. So if it looks like I kind of space out or something like that, I'm probably okay. Just call me back. And Jory, how are you?
I'm just catching my breath, having just gotten back to home and grabbed a quick bite to eat to be able to hang out with all of you. So I've just, it was quite the rush. And I was coming back from the doctor where I got a complete bill of health. So
Yay!
that's the other side. Yes.
Great. I'm glad to hear that. That's always a relief.
Yes, it is. All my tests came back. Okay.
Good.
So,
So today we're going to be, I think the topic that I put in the little weekly mailing was something like the dance of conflict. And I'll explain more about what that's about as we unfold today. But just in case you're here for the first time, I do see some people that doesn't mean you're here for the first time, but it's the first time that I'm noticing you. I'm really glad that you have made it. I'm never quite sure how people find us, but I'm always happy that they do. And so let me just give you a little orientation about this practice group. Jory and I have been doing this practice group in one form or another for more than 20 years on a weekly basis. And we went online when COVID pandemic started about 2.5 years ago. And so our little community of 12 blossomed into hundreds of people. We typically have between 40 and 50 people here each week. And the way that we practice is we practice with self-connection. So I'll be leading a self-connection exercise in just a moment, which is an opportunity to practice nonviolent communication just with yourself. You don't have to know anything about NVC to be able to do that. I'll guide you through the whole thing. And then there'll be a small group activity where Jory will make small groups for you in groups of 2 or 3 or 4, somewhere in that range, depending on how many people show up and what time they get here. And we'll give you some guidance about how to do that, but that's your chance to practice the empathy part of nonviolent communication, which is the listening, and the speaking part as well, which is the honesty. Go ahead, Jory.
and you have the option of whether you go into a group or not. If you do not want to be in a group, put an equal sign in front of your name. I see Richard already did that. So that can be an example if you look for Richard there on about the 3rd row. So otherwise, I will put you in a group. You also can make some requests if there's someone that you would like to be with, or if you have someone you don't want to be with, you can give me a private message. It doesn't guarantee that I'll get to see it. I will if you do it fairly quickly, but once I start putting the whole thing together, I don't usually notice those things because there's a lot of work involved in doing that piece. So again, an equal sign in front of your name if you do not want to be in a breakout room.
And
Thank
also, you can add a language preference. Sometimes we have enough people to
Yes.
do other languages. So sometimes we have a
Yeah.
Mandarin group, sometimes we have a Japanese group, and so forth. So if you want to practice in a language other than English, just let us know. Otherwise, we'll just assume English.
Yeah, it's wonderful for people to work in the language that they're most involved with, and your early life language too taps into something deeper. And the other thing about having a language group is that there are some people on this call who do not speak English as fluently and don't connect as deeply in English. So you might be supporting other people too if you indicate that you're open to both English and another group, another language. So,
Okay.
all righty.
So let's start practicing and fulfill our aim, which is a practice group. And so I'll guide you in just kind of a basic practice that also is a review of what we've been doing the last couple of weeks. So it'll set us up for what we'll.
You're both of you and Jori are freezing up a little bit.
It could be on your end, could be on our end.
That's my experience. I don't know if everybody else is
Yeah.
seeing that.
Yeah, I'm not. I mean, I see other people freezing up a little bit. Could be on my end, but it might not be.
I see people shaking their head no, that's not happening.
Okay, then it might be mine. It might be my connection.
Mhm.
Okay, Ellen, thank you.
Thank you. If
All right.
anybody at any point does have a concern about that, yes, I appreciate you letting us know. And you can put it in the text. We'll notice that as well.
Okay.
All right.
So just start by looking around. This is a practice of observing and of presence to the foundational skills of nonviolent communication. Just allow your eyes to go wherever they want to go. And allow your head to just gently follow your eyes. And as you look around, you might notice your breathing as well. You don't have to try to change anything about your breathing, but you are breathing. And just allow yourself to just pick out 5 distinct objects and name them for yourself, like cup, book, phone, notebook, printer. And then you can close your eyes if you want to. You don't have to. Just rest your eyes though if you'd like to, and then listen. And as you just allow sounds to get registered by your nervous system, again, notice your breathing. And see if you can name 4 distinct sounds that you hear. Like I just heard a car go by. I hear someone using a piece of lawn equipment, the wind, bird song, the sound of my voice. And then consider the sense of touch. Even just me saying it, it probably brings it into more prominence in your consciousness. Of course, you can touch with your fingertips, your hands, bottom of your feet, anywhere on your skin, especially where it touches other things. So we're like one big organ of touch. So just become aware of this part of our observing skills. And then see if you can touch and name 3 distinct textures, like cool, warm, rough, smooth, etc. Two more senses to explore in the skill of observing. Consider the sense of smell. It's a very deeply tied to our emotional center in our brain, very old part of our brain. And see if you can discover 2 distinct smells in your environment. And you can move your body to do that. And name the smells if they have a name. And finally, consider the sense of taste. We always have at least one taste going on, the taste of our whatever's lingering in our mouth. So just let your consciousness rest for a moment on whatever you're tasting, this single taste. And if there's something delightful near you that you'd like to taste, a cup of tea or something that you've been eating, then you can just enjoy that as well. Then I want to just explore 2 needs. Needs as this universal quality that is at the heart of nonviolent communication. We've been talking about a couple of needs the last couple of weeks. So first, consider the need for autonomy or freedom or choice. And think of something today where you enjoyed the opportunity to choose something. Maybe you chose a menu item, or you chose to come to this class, or you chose to call a friend, or you chose not to pick up the phone when it rang. But notice and acknowledge for yourself one choice that you made today. And then attune to your body. Notice what it's like to notice that you have choice, at least sometimes, about some things. What feeling do you notice in your body that's associated with this choice that you made, this freedom that you expressed? Feelings in the body can show up as either sensations or emotions. Whatever you notice is fine. Even if you have the thought, I don't feel anything, then just name that. I don't feel anything, or numb, or whatever name you have for that feeling. It's okay to have that feeling. And just notice, oscillate. In other words, kind of go back and forth between the feeling and the need. The need for choice and the feeling that arises with that need. And then let that go. You can open your eyes and just look around for a second. Just reorient yourself. And consider the need for interdependence. The need that points to the fact that all of us human beings are related somehow. We are all breathing the same air, for example. Sometimes our interdependence is very sharp and clear, like in a personal relationship with a partner or a business partner or a parent or a child. And sometimes we experience interdependence more at the community level, social level. Whatever it's about for you, just notice your need for interdependence and connect with at least one way that you experienced interdependence today. Again, it could even be just being on this call, seeing that you're a part of a community. And notice the feelings that arise for you in relationship to this need, interdependence. And then when you're ready, just let that go. And if your eyes have been closed, you can let them open again. Look around. And do one final check on your body. How's your body right now, having taken these few minutes to be with yourself, to be with your own direct experience? Jori, did you see my note to you? I think Jori's got the groups about ready. So in the small groups, Jori set the timer for 9 minutes probably. And that gives everybody
Yeah, I'm going to set it actually for 10 because I've got about 10 people here who've come in since I started doing this. So it'll take me a moment to get them all in. That
Okay.
work for you?
Sure. So Jori's going to set the timer. Everybody will have about 3.5 minutes to talk. And what do you talk about? Well, introduce yourself. Just say your name and where you're from, how you're feeling, having had this exercise, whether you liked it or didn't like it. It's up to you. Whatever be as honest as you would like to be. And you have about 2 or 3 minutes to just express what this exercise was like for you, or what it's like for you to be on this group. And then when you're done, just say, I'm done, and pass it on to somebody else in your group. And then they can do the same thing. They can introduce themselves and express how they're feeling and what their what their experience of the exercise was, and then there'll be time for the third person. So everybody has 2 or 3 minutes. If you get finished more quickly, then do a second round. In the second round, talk about what your hope is for today. And I'll put all this into a little message, and I'll send it to you once you get into your groups, so you don't have to try to remember it. And so, Jori, whenever you're ready, go ahead and zoom them out of here.
Okay, here you go. Jita, you're not muted. I tried to mute you, but I can't. Welcome back. Just to take a moment to gather us back into our large group and just take a breath as you've sailed through your group and now back into the large group. And I'd love to hear anything anyone would like to share about either what we've done so far today in terms of the practice group or the group, that this group as a whole, or anything from a previous session we did last week, if you have any questions about that. And I see Siva, you have your hand up. Go ahead, you want to go first?
You said it. Okay.
Okay. I didn't really want to go first, but I will anyhow. So
That's what happens when you put your hand up first.
I know, but you see, earlier today I was thinking about problem solving. So I asked my phone, what are the steps in problem solving? And you know what? There are steps. There could be as many as 10 steps according to some list. And what was interesting was in the list of 10, the first step was arrive with a positive attitude. I like that one a lot. And then near the top is first just to notice, just noticing. And then the next step is wondering. But it all sounded like NVC to me. So
That's great. Thank you. Cute. Is that complete, or is there something from your group that you wanted to share, your small group?
I said enough for now.
Okay, sweetie. All right, then we'll go to Celia.
Hi, Jori.
Hi.
Yes, that was wonderful. I so loved being able to repeat back to my group what it was that I got with it felt like mindful exercise that Jim took us through. I just loved it.
Yeah.
It was just what I needed, and it was so nice to share with the other gals what hope was for myself for today. You know what my hope was, and it's just wonderful embodiment. So thank you. I really appreciate you guys being here, and it was very lovely. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for the feedback. And I'm so glad to hear that your group was some place where you could really connect and celebrate. Thank you. And we'll go to Jeff.
Here to share. The awakening for me, the helpful part was that the feelings that arose in me were not comfortable feelings during the mindfulness exercise, and
Interesting.
seeing the things that are around me. You know, I'm moving, I'm in an apartment, I'm not, where I would like to be living. So, but even the process of feeling the negative stuff, and I felt the connection to myself, and that was calming, that was peaceful. In the group, someone else was also in transition, and they were able to say that they see boxes around them as well. So it just was a nice, I'm not alone in this moment. And so thanks for the opportunity to share those things.
Thank you. It's a challenging time, it sounds like, for you, and that this was something that really supported you. Thank you so much for sharing that. And we'll go to Louette. Did I pronounce your name right?
He did.
Oh, good.
So I just wanted to give gratitude to my group
Mhm.
for emulating compassion and being heard. I am here by the grace of God, and thank you, Celia. And I'm implementing a mindfulness day for Merck in August, and I would love to talk to you too about being part of that. And so anyway, I'm just like in awe of God and connection, and that I'm here. So thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you, Celia.
Thank you for celebrating with all of us. Thank you. All right.
Juliana?
Uh, so I just wanted to share a kind of an insight I got over the week. I always recognized that I had a need for love, and when I used to think of love, I looked at it as receiving love, and I was like during the meditation savoring the love that in the morning I had just received from my husband, and this little cup of tea that he's just brought for me. So, I was savoring that. But what struck me is my need for giving love, over the week. And I was talking in terms of my children, and ready to let go of little hurts, and just wanting to support them in their struggles and of life. So this need for giving love came really alive for me, and I just wanted to share that. Thank you so much. Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Jori, and everyone for just being able to be in this consciousness. Yeah.
Sweet to
Thank
savor
you.
that with you, Juliana.
And- Yeah, and thank you, Juliana. And I just want to say that someone who's on the call who doesn't have their name there has sent me a direct message, but I cannot respond to you because your name's not there. So would you
That's
add,
me.
who's that?
Louette, Aerosmith.
Okay. Without your name there, I can't really respond to you, but I'll move
I don't
you.
know how
I'll,
to work.
okay. Well, Louette, your
Person?
name, no, that your name is there. It's not you,
Oh.
sweetie. No,
Okay.
it's someone who just has like a purple symbol next to their name. So, okay. Or it's next to they just have a symbol there, no video. Peace sign. Okay. We'll go from there and see if you can text me once you have put your name there so I can respond. All right, with that, Jim.
Sure. Great. Well, let's continue the adventure. I got a little treat for you here in just a second. First, let me just share this screen with, oops. So this is how we ended last week. We've been playing with these two basic needs, interdependence, which we started celebrating on July 4th, Interdependence Day, as 2 weeks ago. And then autonomy and freedom, we talked extensively about last week. And we ended with this quote, or at least I intended to. I don't know if we actually got to this last slide last week or not. So I wanted to start with it this week. Our survival as a species depends on our ability to recognize that our well-being and the well-being of others are in fact one and the same. So just let yourself take that in. Our survival as a species depends on our ability to recognize that our well-being and the well-being of others are in fact one and the same. So for me, this would be true at lots of different levels. It's clearly true at the level of the observation is that we all breathe the same air. So if somebody's polluting the air in my neighborhood, for example, I smell that air, and it can stimulate a cough in me and so forth. But likewise, if someone's burning plastic or garbage or something, and some other landfill somewhere else in the world, it's affecting our air. And so we're all likewise with the water. Every time we pollute the air, we pollute the water. We're polluting our very own source of our own nutrition, our own needs. And so if we're going to survive, we need to bring this more fully into awareness and to recognize that we can't get our needs met at somebody else's expense. It also works at the micro level. So, for example, if Jori and I are having a conflict and I figure out how I can get my needs met, it's at her expense. So I can get what I want, for example, but she doesn't get what she wants. And that's how we resolve the conflict. Well, we're both going to pay eventually for that. And so Jori and I made a commitment a long time ago, maybe decades now, that we would never submit to each other. And we're pretty good at it now. Sometimes I think we still submit, but we're more and more unwilling to submit because we don't want to pay the price of getting what we want at the expense of somebody else. So today we're going to talk a little bit more about it and how these two needs, freedom and interdependence, can sometimes seem to come into conflict. We'll explore that idea today. Some people think that needs can come into conflict, and I'm going to leave it an open question for now. And because that's often where people start, is with the idea that needs are in conflict. We'll explore that today, and then by the end of the class, we'll see what we think. And we don't all have to agree, by the way. Everybody can think of something else. This is not a path of everybody coming to some sense of we always have to believe the same thing. It's not a belief system. It's something that supports you in clarifying your own direct experience of the universe that we live in. So I imagine most of you know that the giraffe is the symbol for nonviolent communication. Marshall chose the giraffe as the symbol. Marshall used to say that, and this was true when he first started to say it. It was what scientists believed at the time. We've come to find out that it's maybe not so true. But Marshall said that giraffes have the largest heart of any land mammal. Come to find out that rhinoceroses and elephants and maybe hippopotamuses have bigger hearts than giraffes. But it's true that giraffes certainly have the strongest heart of any land mammal, and maybe any animal, because you can imagine with those long necks that it takes a lot of power of the heart in order to pump the blood up those long necks up into the brain of those giraffes. And so for that reason and many other reasons, Marshall chose the giraffe as the symbol for nonviolent communication. And some of you might have the idea that giraffes, in other words, people that are studying and practicing NVC, never fight. And I'm here to reassure you that that's not true. Giraffes, of course, come into conflict. And we're going to take the next few weeks to really dive deep into conflict and how we can transform conflict into connection. But let's start with looking at what giraffes do in the wild. This is about a 2-minute video.
Around the age of 3 or 4, young male giraffes start to strut their stuff and make a play for the top spot, the alpha male. This is where the other theory for the long neck comes in. Male giraffes use it as a weapon. The longer and heavier the neck and head, the more power they have. Hardened lumps of cartilage attached to the skull are also part of the arsenal. These horns, or ossicones, grow bigger with age. But they begin to perfect their fighting skills much earlier, starting off playfully, almost lovingly. But it can quickly get out of hand, and there are no rules. It is called necking for a reason. Round 2. Now it's time to use those horns. At the end of a 500-pound swinging neck, they can really cause some damage. Male giraffes have other strategies too. Why not lift your opponent's leg and throw him off balance? It's a graceful and dangerous dance, all at the same time. Even with an occasional death. Some experts believe that the giraffe's extreme neck is not just about eating from tall trees, but about winning the female and passing on those genes to the next generation.
So we come by naturally this inclination to resolve our conflicts. And it's quite surprising to see even these gentle giants try to resolve their conflicts with what appears to be violence. But as you watch the giraffes, what came up for you? What did you notice in terms of the feelings that you noticed in your own body? You could just put your answers into the chat and we'll read through them. What did you notice in your own body as you watched, maybe for the first time, giraffes fighting? Uncomfortable, amazement, stress, surprise, fear, sad. Yeah, and Siva made an additional observation. There was an audience. The other giraffes were watching. And yet Iris says it's relatively mild as compared to other animals. Looking for a sense of dominance, natural conflict, wonder, laughter, fear that humans would hurt the giraffes. Oh, yeah. Dismay, an unknown destructive behavior. It looked like an art form. Uncertainty. It used to be play, autonomy, disdain. Yeah. So one thing to notice about these reports of feelings is that we all watched the same video. Every single one of us had the same observation. We watched the same 2 minutes and 41 seconds. Produced by National Geographic. I thank them for their support by putting that on YouTube for us. And yet we each had our own individual experience. So this is an important clue. This is an important clue about how we can navigate our own conflicts. Because if you're in a conflict with me and I'm in a conflict with you, we might think we're fighting about the same thing. But even though we might have been in the same moment, we might have seen something completely different and had completely different experiences about it. So navigating the conflict often has to do with how are we going to clarify what's actually happening. And so we'll explore that a little bit today. But we're gonna call on some of your basic skills. And some of you have been coming to this practice group for more than 2 years. And we recently finished a series working with the 28 skills of the matrix. Since we finished that series, we've been stacking these skills together and to show how they can be used for various purposes. And that's what we're going to continue today. So first, just consider the skill of gratitude. Maybe you haven't thought of gratitude as a skill, but it's helpful for me to realize that this is a skill that I can utilize to support me in the presence of conflict. So the way that you could practice it right now is just to think of one thing that you feel grateful for. Maybe somebody did something that help make your life wonderful today. Maybe it even happened during this group so far in your small group. But just think of one thing that made your life more wonderful today. If you want to deepen your practice, write it down.
And I see some people have written it down in chat. Dancing with grace and fiercely resonated with me, from Roxana. And from Sarah Joy, I noticed a subjective commentary as well. Maybe that wasn't in response to that question, I'm not sure.
I believe this was in response to the
Yeah,
last bit.
I think I realized as I read it.
Jory, maybe I could guide you a little bit. And can you think of one thing that made your life wonderful today? A gift that you received from someone.
Oh, I went for my yearly checkup and got a complete bill of health.
Yeah. Yeah. So notice that this is Jory's just reporting her own direct experience. And then the second part of experiencing gratitude is to connect to the need. You don't need to have a needs list. You could just ask yourself, why did I enjoy receiving that? So Jory, why did you enjoy receiving that news from the doctor?
Oh, it's something to celebrate that my existence in this body continues.
Yeah. So something like really supporting some clarity and your well-being.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, supporting. There's supporting. There's some trust there. You know, I got information, and there's trust.
Mm-hmm. Great. And then the third part of gratitude practice is to once you notice the need or why it's important to you that you receive this gift, to just connect to how you feel in your body. I see your hand, Moses. I'll get to you in just a second. How does it feel in your body to notice that you received this gift?
I can say in my body, what I feel is like a lightness, and yeah, a lightness in my body.
Yeah.
It's kind of an excitement. Yeah.
Yeah. So these feelings in the body, they can show up in a couple of different ways. Sometimes they just show up as a sensation, like lightness in the body. Sometimes they show up as an emotion, like appreciation or excitement. Sometimes both. And then the most important part of gratitude is to actually savor this feeling, to just slow it down in a mindful way like we did in that initial exercise, and allow yourself to really register the feeling. This takes it out of the head, which is where we start, and then we embody it. We actually experience it in our body, and then we get fuel from that. It nourishes us. And then one last step that can be helpful with gratitude is, Jory, what did you do to help make it possible to get this news today?
Well, what made it possible to get the news was the capacity to get in my car and go see my doctor. But the thing that I do to be able to take care of my body, which is the celebration, is all the ways I serve my body with exercise, food, surrounded with people that I care about.
Yeah. Yeah. So now everyone else can take responsibility for whatever part you played and whatever it is that you feel grateful for. Because again, it's about well-being. It's about the fact that we're all connected, we're interdependent. Jory couldn't have received this without I don't know, there's probably 30 people that work in that office and support Jory's medical care. And all the other staff that did the blood test and, all the lab work and all that other stuff. Yeah. And Ellen reports, a momentary spark of happiness is the feeling. This is such an important piece, is that when we notice the momentary sparks, which one researcher calls a micro moment, that's the moment of where the power is, to enjoy that little spark. Let yourself really enjoy it. So Moses, you had a question. Is it still alive in you?
I was just going to say that gratitude is my main antidepressant, one of my main antidepressants. A lot of people that I love, take antidepressants, and I'm glad that that's not the case. I'm grateful that that's not the case for me, and gratitude is my pathway to happiness.
Yeah. Thank you. It is a pathway to happiness. And I would never want to encourage anybody who's on antidepressants just to stop without talking to your doctor, of course. But lots and lots of studies have shown that Moses is onto something, that there is a definite antidepressant quality to experiencing gratitude and other life-affirming emotions that are its cousins, like awe, inner peace, and so forth. So let's carry on with our and look at what made that initial exercise possible for you to do, because you already have all these skills. We're just reminding you of the skills that you already have. First, presence. Presence just refers to your natural state as a human being. You're always present to something, and when you bring a quality of awareness to that presence, a quality of acknowledgement of the presence that you already have, you magnify its power. You're focusing on what's actually happening right here and right now in this moment, which supports the skill of observing. We had a deep practice of observing at the opening of the call with the exercise. Observing is the skill where we use the 5 senses in order to connect with the world. What do we see? What do we hear? What do we touch? What do we smell? What do we taste? And then you can deepen the skill of observing by also awakening your ability to notice thoughts and to keep those separate from what you're observing in the world, but to be clear that, of course, we human beings, we're thinking animals. As far as we know, we might be the only animals that think in the way that we do. We have these big parts of our brain called cerebral cortexes. No other animal appears to have those yet. We really don't know, not until we can learn how to communicate with other animals with more clarity. But we can become aware of our thoughts. This can really also be an antidepressant, because if we notice ourselves going down a rabbit hole of disconnection, we can use our autonomy and make another choice. So this is the skill of presence and observing, which creates the foundation for being able to really move into conflict with more clarity. And conflict, the easiest way to think of conflict is at the level of strategy. So what I mean by that is that conflict is always a contradiction. According to the grandfather of modern peace studies, Johann Galtung, who used to be a professor at the University of Hawaii, went on to write lots of books and create a mediation process that's used by the United Nations. All conflict is a contradiction. Contradiction just means two people are saying two different things. Contradiction. So we're seeing the world in two different ways. We have different story about what's happening. So we contradict each other, and that's the source of our conflict. And it usually shows up at the level of strategy. And so think about something that you're in conflict with somebody else in your life. And don't pick a big conflict that you're in therapy about. That might be 25 years old or something like that. But think of a minor conflict. Like, for example, I have a friend who bought a new car. It's not a new car, bought a used car. And soon after he bought it, he drove it over to our house because he does work for us. And then the car broke down. And now the car's been sitting in our front yard for about a month now. And so I'm starting to have some conflictual feelings about this. So from my point of view, I'll be A. We're going to divide the world up into A's and B's. A wants the car to be moved from his yard, and B wants to leave the car in the yard, apparently, since it's been here for a month. So see if you can express the conflict as an observation, just this crystal clear, where there's two people, A and B, and they just want two different things. And just describe what each person wants. And just fill in the blank. A wants, B wants. Tanya's doing a very present conflict between her and her dog. A wants B to throw a toy. B wants to pay attention to Jim.
Hmm.
And Nikhil is empathizing with B in my conflict. He's already taking the next step. Nikhil has been studying with us for many years, and so his empathy skills are already on alert. And so he's already empathizing with B. Maybe he wants to move it, but he can't get it together for whatever reason. So think about your own conflict. What does A want and what does B want? You don't have to put it into the chat. This can be private. But if you want to put it into the chat, we're going to use one of these conflicts, and Jori and I are going to do a role play in just a few minutes, where Jori will be A and I'll be B, or vice versa. So if you think you have a juicy conflict that you'd like to see role played, put it in the chat. Yeah, Suda's got a relational one. A wants B to visit his grandmother every week. B wants to do it whenever he's ready to visit his grandmom. A wants to punish B. B wants A to be compassionate, not honest, and no compassion. It's a little bit hard for me to make a picture of Louette, but I think I get the point of where you're trying to get to. But see if you can describe it as if you were describing it to a judge or a lawyer or something like that, so that they would have, or a reporter for the newspaper. See if you can just use descriptive language. It's a challenge. It's not easy. If you knew how to do it,
And
you probably wouldn't be in this class, because we're all here to learn how to do this very important skill. Jory?
yeah, and I laughed not because of what you were saying, but the next one that comes up, a cat wants to poop in the tub. And that's A, and B hates having to always fill the tub with water to dissuade him. And I'm sure that's not fun, but it cracked me up in the moment. So I've had cats that do such things. So there's also a sympathetic and compassionate response to that too.
Yeah, and so now the picture's getting a little bit clearer with Louette's conflict. A wants B to get her stuff off of her land, and B is kind of like the same situation with the car in my front yard. B B would like to cooperate, but it just couldn't get a truck today and couldn't get her body to cooperate. And also there's this challenge with the new job. So notice the difference as you check the observation between the simplicity of A wants stuff, A wants B stuff off the land, B wants some space, some time before before moving the stuff. That'd be the simplest way to express the conflict. And then the story is important. There'll be a chance to explore the story through dialogue. That when we're practicing the skill of observing, we use the least number of words possible in order to make a description. A wants to stay in a hotel. B wants to go camping. That's a classic.
Yeah, A wants to take rest and B wants companionship. That's a very typical thing that happens between friends who live together. Timing.
Yeah, A wants to go to bed and sleep. B wants to work on a previous conflict. Someone's been spying on us again, Jori. Okay, good. So now we've got some ideas. Keep the ideas coming, and we'll talk about now how we start navigating this conflict while we decide which one we want to do. So in order to navigate this conflict, we're going to use some other skills that are basic NVC skills. We're going to keep our presence and observing skills sharp as we navigate the whole process, but we're also going to utilize this instrument called our body in order to help us to navigate the conflict. We're going to sharpen the awareness we have of the feelings that are happening in our body. And you don't have to have a huge feeling vocabulary to do that, but the better your feeling vocabulary, the more connection you can create. But you really only need to know, does it feel painful or does it feel pleasant? That almost anybody can tell. Or does it feel neutral? So you just tune into your body right now and notice whether you're feeling pleasant feelings, painful feelings, neutral feelings. And of course, when you pay attention, the answer changes because feelings are constantly changing. We're not concrete objects that never change. We're dynamic living creatures, and our feelings are constantly shifting. And so that's why creating this ongoing sense of feelings awareness through our presence can be very helpful, so that we know when we become disconnected or start feeling separate, because then we can use that as a signal to practice self-empathy or call a timeout, something like that. So that's a very important skill. The other skill that we're going to use to navigate the conflict is needs consciousness. Needs is this universal elemental quality identified by Marshall Rosenberg, the founder of nonviolent communication, as that which connects us. So if I tell you what I need, you can understand me because you have the same needs as I do. If I tell you I feel tired and I need rest, that's a sentence that you can make meaning of, because there have been every day of your life you have felt tired and needed rest. You might not feel tired right now. You might feel very energized right now, but you know, because of your own experience, that sometimes you have felt tired because you need rest. And that's true of all feelings and needs, that we human beings have a palette of needs that we can connect to, and we have feelings that point us towards our needs. So the combination of feelings awareness and needs consciousness helps us to navigate conflict. We can pay attention to the needs that we notice in our own body. We can pay attention to, with empathy, to the needs that we think might be going on in somebody else. We can pay attention to the community needs or the needs within the field that we are in. There's all kinds of different ways we can shift our needs consciousness in order to support connection. If none of that makes any sense, that's fine, because the more you practice, the more some of these basic concepts begin to make sense. So the final skill that we utilize with nonviolent communication to navigate conflict is request consciousness and making requests. And so in a minute during the role play, you're going to see how Jori or I, or both of us, use the power of asking for what we want to help us to navigate the conflict. And we might sometimes ask for feedback about how the other person feels. We want them to express a little more honesty for us, so that we can connect with what's going on in them. Or sometimes we want to make sure that we've been understood. So we might ask the other person to let us know what they heard us say, so that we could become more clear about getting our needs across and our requests across. And Sarah Joy writes in the chat, A wants to stay present and learn. B notices they are falling asleep. A and B are in the same person. Is this an inner conflict? Yes. Sometimes we have inner conflicts. So we'll see if we can wake things up by actually having a giraffe fight now, me and Jori. And so let me just go through the list here and see if I can pick one.
Jim, I actually had one I'd like to talk to you about that
Okay.
I think is a conflict between the two of us.
All right, great. That sounds really juicy. Let's try that.
Yeah.
Okay, so before Jori starts, she's going to open up the conversation in just a minute. And I know it's coming, so I'm going to go ahead and practice my own spiritual clarity. Says, now I know I'm suddenly going to be on the hot seat. So I'm going to work to develop my own sense of presence and my own intention to connect with Jori. I noticed curiosity starting to awaken in me. And I'm getting more and more curious. I wonder what this is about. There's a little part of me that says, okay, now what did I do? I wonder what this is gonna be, and so forth. But I'm feeling curious and ready. And so now Jori's going to invite formally.
And
she's gonna-
I'm gonna also do my little check-in as well. So I have a particular topic I want to talk about, and I feel a little anxious about it. I'm guessing that this is something that might be a challenge between us, and I can feel my heart beating quickly. And at the same time, I'm excited that I'll have an opportunity to explore this, and we'll see where we go. Okay, I'm ready.
Okay.
So,
I'm gonna,
Jim,
before you start, I'm just going to set my timer for 7 minutes so we don't get too caught up in this. And so we have
Okay.
time to debrief it before we go to small groups. So I'm ready when you are.
Jim, there's something I'd like to talk to you about. And I want to know whether this is a good time to talk so that we can really have an opportunity to explore something that's really alive in me, and I think between the two of us.
Sure. Yeah, I'm willing to talk about it, and I'm really curious what's going on.
Well, as you know, one of my sisters is having some medical issues going on. And I'd like to talk to you about some of what's going on in me around that. Are you open to hearing that?
Sure, go ahead. I'm still with you.
Yeah. Mhm. So I feel some concern around my sister, and um, I'm noticing that she's making some choices because she no longer has her husband with her. And as you know, he's gone. And some of her choices are some of the strong influences that she's now living alone, and she's worried about having surgery. And so I think you probably know what's coming next. I want to take care of her, and I also want to make sure that I take care of our relationship too. So, what did you hear was important to me?
So I heard a couple things that I got. One was you really want to support your sister, and the second thing is you want to protect our relationship.
Yeah. So, how is all that landing so far? Just to take it slow here.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. I predicted that that would be the topic. That's so interesting that my brain was already skipping ahead. And uh, as long as it's like at this really abstract level, it feels really easy. It'll be when it gets into when there's more detail about what, when, how long, blah blah blah. That's when I get a little bit worried about how I'll start the feelings that will come up for me. And so I think my need at the moment is something like more clarity. And yeah, so I think that's where it's at. It's about clarity. So do you want to give me some more clarity about what you have in mind?
Yeah, so you want some more clarity, and I'm guessing you have, based on the way you responded, you have a sense of what choice I'm dancing with right now, which is that choice of going to stay with her and to support her as she goes through this possible uh, medical thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I appreciate that you are aware of that, and I hear some openness from you. And I wonder what comes up for you when you think about me going there.
Oh, terror. I mean, it sounds like a really strong word, but it's really terrifying for me to think that you would travel about what is it? I don't know, 4,500 miles in airplanes during Omicron B COVID pandemic. And it just doesn't seem like a good idea. It seems I'd really like to think of other ways to support your sister that didn't involve you getting on an airplane. How do you feel hearing that?
Yeah, first I just want to acknowledge how the concern that you have about my well-being as well. And that you feel very protective toward me and want me to be safe. And I do too. So I have some cautionary parts in myself about getting on a plane and traveling, for I don't know how many hours to the East Coast. And so I share that as well. And I feel really torn. I feel some tears even behind my eyes because I care about you. I care about her. I care about me, and it's a challenging situation. But since she's lost her husband and she's living alone, she's looking at choices of not doing anything about it, and I'm not sure. I mean, I think she would do something about it if he were around or somebody else was out there to support her. So anyway, that's what's coming up for me. So can you make any sense out of what I just said?
Yeah,
Reflect that?
what I got, and then we'll finish after this reflection, if that works for you. That that you're torn. You too have this need for protection, but the overwhelming impulse is to somehow find a way to contribute. And you really want to acknowledge that because of your sister's circumstances, she may not be seeing all the choices that might be available to her, and you want to make sure that she chooses life in the same way that she might if she was still connected to her husband, something like that.
No, not quite. There was some extra things you added there that aren't quite in alignment with what's going on for me, but I'm also aware of the time and we can
You got
continue
30 you got 30 seconds to straighten me out. Go ahead.
um, I what it's really about is not having her be alone and having her have a choice to be able to make a choice without it being ruled by some space around I can't, or she'd have to go to some sort of institution or something that she doesn't want to do.
Yeah. You really want to support her healing, want her to have choice about having having a safe, warm place, that emotionally warm place where she could heal if this is what she decides to do.
Actually, I want her to know that she's safe and that if she can't get out of bed, somebody's there to take care of her. Someone that she trusts is there to take care of her.
You want her to know that someone that she trusts is there to take care of her.
Yeah, thank you.
This is a good place to pause for now. Okay.
Yeah.
So let me take the spotlights off. First time I ever used that, but I was at another call earlier today where that happened.
Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah. So now the question is to invite those of you who were watching us, what did you see that you sense? Just make some notes first. What did you see that supported connection? That either Jori did or I did. Make your own observations. And Jori, if you can make the groups again and make them 12 minutes long.
Okay. 12 minutes long with a 60-minute
60 seconds.
message.
Yeah.
60 second, right? Thank you. 60-minute would be crazy. Okay.
And then jot down the second question to consider in the group is what, if anything, did you notice that might have gotten in the way of connection that either Jori or I did? So on the one hand, you're looking for any behaviors that you saw or heard either of us do that supported connection, and on the other hand, anything that we did or didn't do that might have not supported connection. And we'd like to invite you to go back to small groups for about 12 minutes just to talk about what you saw. And then when we come back, we'll harvest some of that and show you. I'll leave it at that for now. So,
Okay, so 12 minutes and 60 seconds additional.
okay.
And we'll open up the rooms now. Again, if you aren't in a room right away, it's because I need to put you in the new one. All righty, go ahead.
Well, we ended up with our own little small group debriefing it. It was very rich with Jerome, Sakti, and Monica, Monique. I missed your name. Now you're so many of you up here, I can't remember your name, but I know you were here a second ago.
Aw.
Yeah. And really appreciating the feedback. And let me share my screen with you, and then we'll see what else we can hear from you. So I'll just leave this up while we hear from people. Just raise your hand, and Jori, you can call on folks, and I'll point out.
Just so you know, Jim, it's pretty hazy there. It's not very visible.
Yeah,
it's out of focus.
Yeah, it should straighten out in just a second. Once the we'll find out.
Okay, we'll see if the buffer helps.
Yeah.
There. Okay.
So what did you guys see or hear?
That led to connection.
Jacqueline. Yeah, thank you, Jacqueline. You can either put it into the chat or.
Still quite hazy for me. Is it only me?
Go ahead. Still
No,
hazy
I
for
said,
you?
yeah, it's still very hazy. I can't read the words.
Yeah, it was very hazy.
We'll let that go for right now.
I did.
Well, go ahead, Rob.
Yeah, it was just like there was the way when Jim, you were reflecting back what Jori said, then you asked for her reflection about what you had said, and you were really open to each other. And I said in my group, I don't know if this is true. I think you guys, this has been an issue for a while. I think you might have talked about it a few months back. And I think there was something about Jori going on a plane with COVID, and it was much more dynamic, and Jim was much less settled, I think. And I don't know if this is the same kind of topic here, but Jim, you're much more relaxed and about it. So I noticed that.
Thanks, Rob. Yes, we did have a similar conflict right at the very beginning of the COVID, because Jori did go off, and it was quite stimulating for little Jimmy when she did leave that time.
It was.
Yeah. Both my sisters' husbands died right in the beginning of COVID. And I chose to go there. I went one, and then the other died within a week, and I went back, and it was a rough time.
Yeah.
And so this particular topic was one that's fairly sensitive to have brought up here, and I appreciate having the opportunity to have an audience. I felt a sense of support in doing that.
Oh,
thank you.
Oh,
and I noticed, was there more you wanted to say, Rob?
Yeah, just one thing. I did notice a point where when Jim said, oh, this is what I was expecting her to talk about. And there wasn't a disconnection, but that's so dangerous using in conversations to say, I knew you were going to talk about that. So,
yeah.
Could be, yeah. Thanks,
you
Rob.
always talk about that. You're a broken record.
Yeah, I can see how that could get somebody in trouble. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Might not have been the most present moment for me. Thanks, Rob. Tanya. Oops, you're still
You're
muted.
muted, Tanya. And I
Well,
and I just want to,
sometime,
before you go, Tanya, I just want to say one thing about what Rob said is that when I broached that topic, I was prepared for comments like that or any other kind of comment that would come because I knew it was a sensitive topic. So I did my inner work before I opened my mouth. And go ahead, Tanya.
you stole my thunder.
Oh, sorry. Wasn't my intention.
No, I so appreciated you guys verbalizing your inner prep stuff because I think that's for me that's the thing. If I forget to do the inner prep stuff, then I'm not ready.
Yeah.
and
That's
and
good.
then the slow pace. Can we
Mhm.
talk? Can we talk about this? Okay, we can talk about this. Okay, here's and just like slowly bringing it forward. And Jim saying, "Okay, I'm good for now, but when we get down to details, I think there might be some stress on my part." And just very slow, step by step. I saw that as keep like the ultimate goal is stay connected, not who gets what they want.
Right. Yeah, not just being attached to your outcome, but making connection a priority. Thank you. Yeah. Thanks for pointing out the pieces you saw. And Ellen?
So, American culture is not one where the family takes care of the family. When my parents were passing, all the siblings of 5 of us got together, got a schedule written out for the month by month thing for my parents. So I'm wondering, does she have siblings, or not siblings, but children that
Yeah.
that could have assisted in the care and make it a little less of a burden on you? I'm just asking as a curiosity in this play of.
Right. And in this situation, it's not the direction I really want to go, but I want just to acknowledge that
Okay.
the conversation can be deeper and to really look at what is going on there, other resources, whatever, that
Right, right.
when we have these kinds of conversations, we explore together too.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you for leading that boundary. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. And then we'll go to Sarah Joy.
Thank you, Jori. I thought it was an excellent learning to watch the two of you, because I also remember the first one, and I really thought you were both really present, and I think you held back a lot of possible emotions. There was no attempt to fix or to offer other solutions than what was the main concern of the person, of you, Jori, what your topic was to bring up. And I appreciate that, because I'm going through that inner thing right now with myself. My mom just turned 90. It's her birthday. She's in New York. It's a place where a lot of COVID is happening. The travel is West Coast to East Coast. And most of my family around there are not going to be wearing the masks. I've been so careful this whole time because I have some health issues. But I actually was living with my mom, taking care of her in Seattle for 6 years. And then she moved, we had her moved closer to 2 of my siblings in New York. But she may not be around for too much longer. So do I go to her birthday, risk it, and spend some time with her? Or do I stay home and not risk it? And then if she passes, what am I going to be feeling like?
Yeah.
So that's my dilemma right now. So, but thank you for demonstrating that, because that kind of helps me be more self-compassionate to myself on whatever choice I choose.
Yeah, and I appreciate you pointing out how there's a whole inner conflict often that's going on inside of us, even as we may bring that conflict to somebody else. Is like really trying to figure out how to meet more needs at less cost.
And I heard your concerns, for your relationship. And for the travel itself. So you had also that inner conflict that I'm talking about.
Right, exactly. And often this is the case, although we get so attached to an outcome, we even lose track of that.
Right. But
Yeah.
I also felt Jim did a really good job in hearing that as well. And
Yeah, he's pretty good at it, huh?
Yeah.
Thank you, Sarah Joy. And we'll go to Moses of Oregon.
I had two pieces that came up for me. One was this the conflict around the pandemic and health standards and people's convictions about what is safe and what isn't safe. It's all just across the board, which I think is probably a conflict that has broken up, churches and marriages and companies and stuff, something that we might want to explore further. It's enough conflicting facts. It makes it really difficult to explore it more than the feelings. Anyway, my other point was, one thing that came up for me in the conversation was when Jim was asking for specifics. You were talking about the idea of wanting to take care of your sister, and Jim said, well, I really would like some specifics, like, what I heard him say was he asking, like, what are you thinking, or when are you thinking of going, or how many days are you kind of thinking of going? He wanted to get a handle on something like that. That's what I heard. And when you responded, you went more into feelings. There were no specifics in your response, and it was something that I noticed.
Yeah, so that you notice that there are different ways of responding, and that we make the choice of which may build the most, from my perspective, we make the choice of what will build the most connection and common understanding before we actually come to a decision. Thank you for pointing that out. And we'll go to Sanjita. Sanjita. Is it Sanjita or Sanjita?
It's Sangeeta.
Sangeeta. Wrong on both. Okay, Sangeeta. If I get it wrong again, just correct me. Feel free.
No, not at all. What's in a name? That's what they say, right? It doesn't make a difference. Yeah. So, the way my observation was just one of awe when I saw the both of you. And it was, what came to mind was that, where is the conflict? There is no conflict. It's only connection. And especially the definition of conflict, which was so beautifully explained in just one word by Jim as we started the session, that a conflict is contradiction. And in that sense, I never saw any contradiction between when it was just a pure dialogue, a rich dialogue that was happening between the two of you is what I observed. And it was all about connection. So everything that Tanya and Sarah has said before, and I wouldn't want to repeat it, but it just felt like a rich dialogue exchange between the two of you. And that was only meant to connect. Even if he was connecting about his concern about your well-being and you being in gratitude and accepting that concern of his care and concern, I didn't see any scope for conflict over there. But at the same time, it makes me very curious, can this really actually happen between two people? I mean, to watch it happening between the two of you all who are experts and who have been practicing NVC is different. And to carry it into real life, a real life scenario is my concern.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I do want to say this is real life. And yes, there is some anxiety in me to bring this up.
Yeah, you did mention that.
Which is why I chose to do it. because then you really see that it's not some sort of movie that you try to make happen. It's really delving into the depth of what's going on inside of ourselves and dealing with any enemy images or any resistance. It's just, two people having a dialogue, and a lot of emotion may be going through each of us. And we might name that and ask for empathy about it if we'd like, but we don't just push that under the table and do some sort of um, uh, like a script, in a movie kind of thing.
Yeah.
Real life.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
And I wish I could say that all of our conflicts went that smoothly, because of course they don't always go that smoothly. It depends on the state of our resources. It depends on whether we're actually using our necks, to fight, or whether we're using older weapons, that we got from the way we were conditioned and so forth. And but I think at the heart of what made this juicy for me was that the intention was clearly to connect. We didn't have to try to solve anything today. It was just about connection. And when I remember that in real life conflicts, then it's all right. Then the idea of NVC based conflict resolution is that if you focus on the connection, the resolution will take care of itself through the process of creativity. And so we'll keep working that over the next couple of weeks. I see there's 2 more hands up and I want to get to them, but before I do,
I want to say one more thing about what you just said too, is that when is important. This was a situation where we're both we've slept well, it's not too late at night, and all of those things that I just would like to be very, very clear about in order to.
And I think that was also Liz in our group. She did spot that bang on. That it was when you even checked with Jim, is this a good time to talk?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I checked with myself before I checked with him. So thank you. And,
thank you.
And I'll pass it to Jim. You have something you want to?
Yeah, I want to do the things we usually do it toward the end of the practice group. Then we'll address Kehana, Kay, and Siva. So first link that I put into the chat is where you can get recordings from these classes, so that you can review them for your own use later, or use them in your own practice groups, or whatever you would like. So all the recordings are there. There's probably 100 recordings there of various kinds now at pathways-to-liberation.com. And also, I wrote a book last year. It's just been out for almost a year now. And you can order it. I just did a little Google search, and I'll put the link in for the Google search. It came up with 4,000 different places where you can buy my book on Google. That was kind of fun to see. But you can buy it lots of different places. I recommend that you order it from your local mom and pop bookstore, if there still is such a thing in your neighborhood. Or you can order it from any of these places on internationalshopping.com, where you can arrange for free shipping for the book. And also make a request of your local library to buy copies of the book, so that other people can enjoy reading it without having to buy it. We do all of our work here with nonviolent communication, working with the gift economy, which means we don't charge, but we are willing to receive your gifts. And so if you'd like to, there's a couple ways that you can give to us. One would be to give directly to the Center for Nonviolent Communication. If you're an American citizen who pays taxes, you can get your own tax deduction from that. If you talk to your own tax advisor about that, that might be something worthwhile for you to investigate. If you do decide to give money to CNVC, please let us know that you did that. We'd just like to be able to savor your gift. We also have a PayPal account that you can get to through that link there. And if you give us money, we'll find a great NVC project to pay it forward to. And we are excited about some upcoming things, IIT scholarships and so forth, and other projects that where people will get our main emphasis with the money that we give right now is towards people who don't have access to NVC training. For example, Suda, some of you might have connected with Suda today. Suda has operates a trust in India. That's like the American version of a nonprofit that's helping NVC candidates who are navigating the process of certification in India. We need about 1 million trainers in India, and we've only got about 5 or 6 so far. And so we got a big project ahead of us there, and I'm really grateful that Suda is here with us, and we want to support her project. So if you want to let let us know where you would like the money to go, we'd be happy to consider that request as well. Next week, we will continue this exploration of navigating conflict, and we'll focus on those preliminaries. Many of you noticed in the debrief how important the preliminary work was to make sure that the conflict discussion had less contradiction and more diction, more connection. And so we'll talk about what you can do in your own conflicts to support yourself in being ready for a conflict and inviting a conflict that where everybody's needs are more likely to be satisfied. And so that's what we'll do next week. And with that, I'll formally end.
I want to check with Kay before you close it.
Yep, go ahead.
Yep.
Okay.
You don't want to share what you had to
Oh, I want to hear what you wanted to
Okay.
say, Kay. So
I
please.
did too, Kay.
Yeah, now my mouth.
I was gonna add my 2 cents about what I noticed.
Please
So
do.
Yes, please.
maybe
Yeah,
okay.
go ahead.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, what I was touched by was the goodwill between the two of you, the cooperation, and then also the your commitment to authenticity, to be as authentic as you could possibly be. So yeah, that's what I wanted to say.
Thank you for that feedback that was seen. Thank you. And Siva? I can't.
Did
there
you
go.
say Siva?
Yeah.
Oh,
did.
I thought you said somebody else's
No,
name. Okay,
no.
so this is maybe a summary, because when Sangeeta said what she said, it just opened my eyes to the usual conversation at any level is to fix things and to judge. And that was not at all what happened. It was just collecting information. And then it seemed like when you had enough information, then we could see if there were a variety of ways to solve the problem. And maybe the next step would have been, well, just throwing out possible ways the problem that were illuminated could have been solved, could help solve the problem. And then finally, maybe prioritizing and saying, well, maybe this and maybe that, and maybe this and maybe that. So no feeling of we have the time that we have to get this solved. None of that. It was,
I appreciate your awareness and your naming several of those things that were definitely important pieces of staying open to possibility and willingness to hear each other.
right. Thank you.
Thank you, Siva.
And
All
by
right.
the way, I harvested the chat, and we will cover some of these things that folks brought up in the chat, the questions and the concerns over the next few weeks. And we look forward to continuing to share this with you. I'm going to turn the recording off now, and then Jori will invite you to our after party.